Hello, welcome to Puffs and Poetry. I'm your host, Jessica, a writer, cannabis aficionado, and poetry lover. Today I am rolling up my favorite kind of joint. My favorite kind of joint is a type 2 joint, which has a balance of CBD and THC. The reason that I love this joint so much is because while I love THC, and I do love THC, the intoxication qualities of this cannabinoid can be a bit much on the days where I have a long list of things to do. And CBD is extremely helpful for keeping me centered, keeping me balanced, and keeping me on task. I love THC for the mood boosting effects, but on the days where I just can't get too high, or on the days where I don't feel like dealing with the negative side effects of high THC strains, like paranoia, anxiety, and increased heart rate, I reach for CBD. This one smells beautiful. I'm rolling up with some new CBD today. I just bought it this morning, and it is sun-grown CBD out of Oregon. When a plant is sun-grown, that means that it is grown outside rather than inside, as most THC plants are. So the strain of CBD that I'm rolling up with today is called Rock Candy, and it smells fantastic. A little earthy, and maybe a little bit citrusy. I left my very keefy keef pick in the top part of my grinder. Let's put that back. So today I am reading poems by the 20th century poet Sara Teasdale. Sara Teasdale was born in the 1880s, died in the 1930s, and I have been reading from her collected works for the last couple weeks, picking out some of my favorite pieces to share. I love Sara's poems for a few reasons. One being most of her poems are quite short. I love poetry, but I will be the first to admit that I don't always have the attention span for longer poems. And be that as it may, whether it is good, bad, or neutral, it is always nice to know that there are shorter poems out there that are just as enjoyable, just as profound, and just as well written. Sara is a very romantic poet. So in addition to the brevity, many of her poems are characterized by an intensely romantic subject matter, and a lot of them rhyme as well. Poetry certainly does not have to rhyme, but it is quite fun to read poetry that does rhyme. Beautiful. Now let me get myself organized here and we'll get into it. So the poems that we are reading today come from a book of poetry that was published in 1920. I think it is particularly interesting when you are dealing with older poems or historical poems to consider the context of the time that they are written. 1920 was a very interesting year in the US. We are on the tail end of World War I, right at the start of the Roaring '20s, and the Great Depression is still years and years away. Beautiful. It is morning as I sit down to record this, and it is my favorite way to start the day with a good joint and a good book of poetry. Let's get into it. Our first poem today is called I Know the Stars. I know the stars by their names, Aldebaran, Altair, and I know the path they take up heaven's broad blue stair. I know the secrets of men by the look in their eyes. Their gray thoughts, their strange thoughts, have made me sad and wise. But your eyes are dark to me. Though they seem to call and call, I cannot tell if you love me or do not love me at all. I know many things, but the years come and go. I shall die not knowing the thing I longed to know. This poem is called The Nights Remembered. The nights remember, not remembered. The nights remember. The days remember and the nights remember. The kingly hours that once you made so great. Deep in my heart they lie, hidden in their splendor, buried like sovereigns in their robes of state. Let them not wake again, better to lie there, wrapped in memories jeweled and arrayed. Many a ghostly king has waked from death sleep and found his crown stolen and his throne decayed. Got a little bit of canoeing going on with this joint here. Let's see if we can't fix that. There we go. All right, back at it now. This poem is called May Day. A delicate fabric of birdsong floats in the air. The smell of wet, wild earth is everywhere. Red small leaves of the maple are clenched like a hand. Like girls at their first communion, the pear trees stand. Oh, I must pass nothing by without loving it much. The raindrops try with my lips, the grass with my touch. For how can I be sure I shall see again the world on the 1st of May, shining after rain? This poem is called Arcturus. Arcturus brings the spring back, as surely now as when he rose on eastern islands for Grecan girls and men. The twilight is as clear a blue, the star as shaken and as bright, and the same thought he gave to them, he gives to me tonight. This poem is called Morning Song. A diamond of a morning waked me an hour too soon. Dawn had taken the stars and left the faint white moon. Oh, white moon, you are lonely. It is the same with me. But we have the world to roam over. Only the lonely are free. This next poem is called There Will Come Soft Rains, parentheses, wartime. And if you Google Sara Teasdale, this tends to be the poem that comes up most often. This tends to be the poem that she is most famous for. And while my US history is not especially sharp. This book of poems were published in 1920, so it is not far-fetched to think that she wrote this poem previous to publication while the US was embroiled in World War I. Gotta keep this lid. We'll put it down. Just kidding. There will come soft rains. Wartime. There will come soft rains, and the smell of the ground, and swallows circling with their shimmering sound, and frogs in the pools singing at night, and wild plum trees in tremulous white. Robins will wear their feathery fire, whistling on whims on a low fence wire. And not one will know of the war, not one will care at last when it is done. Not one would mind, neither bird nor tree, if mankind perished utterly. And spring herself, when she woke at dawn, would scarcely know that we are gone. It was true in 1920, and it is certainly true now. Our last poem today is called A Boy, and this poem is particularly sweet, particularly cute. A boy. Out of the noise of tired people working, harried with thoughts of war and lists of dead, his beauty met me like a fresh wind blowing, clean, boyish beauty in high-held head. Eyes that told secrets, lips that would not tell them. Fearless and shy, the young, unwearied eyes. Men die by millions now because God blunders. Yet to have made this boy, he must be wise. If you're wondering if I get ash on the desk when I do this, the answer is yes, I do. I do. I get ash everywhere. What are you gonna do? I hope you enjoyed today's round of poems. That is all that I have for you. I appreciate you sharing some time with me, lighting up if you're smoking. I would love to know what. Comment down below. And for listening to some poetry. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and have a wonderful day. I'll see you next week.